Welcome everybody to Crypto Rosetta. My name is Savage. Today we're going to be having a look at stacks. Let's get into the charts and see what's going on. Okay, so before we get into the lower time frame stuff here, we're just going to go over the bullish and the bearish count here. So for as long as we actually maintain this level of this 20 cent 40 here, we can look for the possibility of this continuation to the upside, where we treat this as a bigger A, B, and then we're looking for this C wave to the upside. Now we do have potential here that if we continue to hold this low, that our 1-to-1 is up here at this 1379 as a potential target. But if we look at the blue count within this, what we could see is that possibly we could look to complete lower down here towards this 854 or this 786. Now there is always the potential this move could become impulsive to the upside here, so we're going to have to keep an eye on this. But at the moment, I'm just treating it as a corrective structure to the upside. So what we are looking for within this count is that effectively we could have this as 1-2. We did come down into our blue support box range that we were talking about in the previous videos. And now what we need to be on the lookout for is that if we are looking for this as a third wave to confirm, we need to see a price push up towards this 547, in which case we'd be looking for a fourth and a fifth. Now there is also potential within this that this B wave could be incomplete, so we need to just be aware of that. If we are looking at that possibility, what we could rather see here is that we could have this as a W. This becomes our X wave to the upside here, where we have this as a flat correction. And what we could still be looking for is a move to the downside in a bigger Y wave. So if we just start to develop three wave structures to the downside here, this would align with this idea of this Y wave. Now the minimum requirement we'd be looking for would be this 3276. So even something like this, technically speaking, could actually satisfy that requirement, but we'd have to be careful because really the 1-to-1 is also all the way down here, which would be towards this 1390 level. Now the interesting thing about this level is this would bring us back into this golden pocket between this 1515 and this 1356 as a possible target to the downside for this Y wave. So going to have to keep an eye on these lower levels here. If we do only see corrective structure to the upside, this could align with this idea of this continuation to push to the downside here. So what we're going to talk about here is that if we are looking at the bearish option here, we're saying we need to be careful of this Y wave. We're going to go over that first. What we could see here, if I come down into a smaller time frame now, is that within this structure here, we could have this as an A wave to the upside, and we could be looking for this B wave to the downside. Now, for as long as we hold this 50 cent 81, potentially we have that possibility of seeing price look to push back to the upside here, looking for this C wave to potentially bring us back into the top end of this channel and possibly look to retest some of these levels. Though we need to be careful here, because if we are counting this in this way, effectively we just have a three wave move to the upside, which has already brought us into this golden pocket area. So we've already come up into the typical retracement that we look for as a B wave. So this B wave could actually be over here, and we might not see this bigger structure develop to the upside. So if that's the case and we do look to push down directly from where we are, what we'd be looking for is a potential 1-to-1 would actually be a move down towards this 2946. And if I throw this 0.618, a minimum requirement would be looking for would be this 4482 as a possible target that we could look to move down into. So we need to just be careful of this, that if we do start to break down in a bigger way here, possibly coming back into these lows, we could look for this possibly as a 0.618, but the 1-to-1 is more likely in this situation. So we'd be looking out for that 2946 as a possible move back to the downside. Now this would still align with coming back down in this bullish support zone, so technically speaking it wouldn't invalidate it, but we'd have to just be careful because if we do see something like this, the wave 2 or the B wave would be starting to get quite large in comparison to this move that we had to the upside. So effectively, if we're looking for the bullish count, I want to see this low hold here, and then we would need to see the progression to the upside. Now it is also possible within the structure in the shorter term here that we could still be developing a move to the upside here, where we could have this as still being within this B wave to the upside, so this white B wave. So we need to be on the lookout for this, that what we could still see is something like this develop as a flat correction, where this becomes A, B, and C. And now that would look something along these lines here, where we'd say this is an A wave, this is a B wave, and what we'd be looking for here would be looking to maintain the 6133. And if we do hold this level that we've come down into already, and we don't lose this level here of the 6309, then potentially what we could look for is that if we want to count this move in this way, we could say that this is 1, 2 in here, and then potentially looking for some 5-wave structure to develop. Now we'd only get confirmation by a move up towards this 78 level, and then we'd be looking for the possibility of an additional fourth and a fifth wave here, which would be looking to actually bring us into this zone of this 80 cent 48 to the 78.06. Now this would still align with that idea of this being a corrective structure, and could possibly mean that what we see is price push up into this higher level here of either this 77.51 to this 78.36 if we see this develop into the golden pocket. Alternatively, if we see this move push up higher here, the 1618 of this, if this is a flat correction, would push us into this 82 cent level. So that would be quite an interesting zone to be keeping an eye on if we do see this push to the upside, because what this would just mean is that this B wave is then moving higher up here, and effectively what this would then do is just push this target to the higher end of this. So if we did see a move up in such a way, then our 1-to-1 would be this 58.55 if we went to that 1618. If however we moved into the target box, it could bring us back into this golden pocket area. So this is why I'm just keeping an eye on this. If we do see a 5-wave move to the upside develop here, this could align with the idea of us having a bullish count here. So if we do have this develop as a 5-wave structure up here, if we only see 3 waves down, we could potentially be setting up for that bullish count. So going to be keeping an eye on this. Like I said, we need to move up past the 78 cent region, then get an additional fourth and a fifth. We need to start to see good structure here. Otherwise, I think it's more likely that we're still going to see some continuation to the downside. Now, if we are looking at this and saying that this B wave's actually already completed lower down here, something like a running flat, then what we could be looking for is a 5-wave move to the downside here, where this becomes 1, we get 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, some common target areas would be this golden pocket here, which would be this 57.18 to this 55.90, as well as that we do have this 50% sitting back down towards this level here, but I would expect this to get deeper than that. What I'd want to see here is that if we look to break down from our current level, what I would be looking for is this 0.618 would actually align with coming back to this golden pocket, but then the 1-to-1 would also be aligning with coming back down deeper here towards this 50 cent 81. Now within this bearish case here, or the corrective case rather, what we would be saying is that we could see something like this as an A, B, and C, in which case what this would then mean is that possibly we look to hold this support zone here and then see a 5-wave move to the upside, this whole move becoming a bigger corrective structure here, looking to actually complete somewhere within this 103 to the 75 cent region. But like I said, we need to be cautious because we've already come up into this level. So if we do start to break down directly here, our targets to the downside would actually be towards this 29 cent 46 at this current time. So if we do see price push back down here, possibly we could look to come back into this central channel line that would align with this corrective move. So that's what we're looking for there. If we are looking at the really short term here, what I'm just being mindful of is that for as long as we actually fail to get back above this high, potentially we could see this breakdown in a 5-wave move. Now, depending on how high we come here, this could change how this target works. So if we had to break down directly from where we are, effectively 54.79 to the downside, a 5-wave move down into this level would mean that we have this as a bigger 5-wave structure. If we do look to push back to the upside here, the 618 would move this up towards this 56.72. The 50% would move this up towards this 55.94. So just looking out for this potential here, that until we actually break this high here, we need to be careful that we could see price look to still continue to the downside, because this is what we need to be aware of. When we have a 5-wave move down, there's always the potential it can extend to the downside. Now, within the bullish count here, what we would be saying is slightly different, is that we'd be looking for that possibility that we've already completed this move into this low. So what we'd be saying here is that, you know, possibly we are looking at this as a wave 2 point over here already towards this 43.89, and we wouldn't want to see this level get crossed again. Now, what we'd be looking for is the idea that within this, the only way this makes sense to count as a 5-wave structure here, because of the overlap that we have in this beginning bit here, is that we'd have to say that this is 1, 2 from this point. Now, the way we'd have to count this then is that this wave 2 is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then effectively this is a triangle here, 5th wave truncation, and then this would be our wave 1 to the upside. So that's the only way we can really count this as a clean impulse to the upside. Now, the key thing here, really, for as long as we hold this 46.79, this is still a valid count, but we need to see price start to push away from this level. Even now, the waves are already starting to push that limit of how how long I want to see this take place as a wave 2. If we do see another push down here and we look to find support in this golden pocket area, for instance, then possibly we could see price look to push up from that area. Like I said, this 0.618 could be an interesting zone at this 57.54. So if we see price just push down one more time here in a 3-wave move, something like this, then potentially what we could have here is that this is W, X, and Y, something like that, where we then look to push down into some of these lower levels, find support, and then we'd be looking for that good 5-wave structure to the upside. Now, if we came down to this golden pocket, effectively only confirmation would come by crossing this 166. So this is what I'm saying. We need to be careful with this. There is potential for this bullish count to play out, but this is invalidated by crossing this 46.79. It can always start from lower down here. If we complete that corrective move lower down, we can then look for this impulse. But if we're looking at it from this point here, that would be our invalidation point, and I wouldn't want to see us lose 53.60. Looking for this $1.66 as a potential wave 3. Having a look at the daily CPR lines here, what we can see is that we are currently below these central CPR lines, and these are very tightly spread. Now this typically indicates volatility, so if we do see price start to break to the downside here, this could mean that we see the price move through these levels. Now we do have downside targets here of this 62.87, we have the 61.89, and this lower level here of the 61 cents. So if we do see price move down into these zones, possibly we could look to pivot off of these, but there is also the potential that we could look to just move directly through them. However, if we do look to push back to the upside here and we regain these central lines, which are sitting towards the 64.83 and the 64.69, then we do have these potential upside targets for today. 65.64, we have the 66.63, 67.49, and this 68.52. Now this would align with the idea of seeing something like this as a corrective move to the upside here before looking for that continuation down if we're looking for that bearish scenario. Or alternatively, we could argue that within here we have a wave 2 as a flat correction, and what we are looking for is that continuation to the upside. So that's what we're looking for here. If we are looking for that direct push up here, we need to maintain these lows and then see price develop to the upside in that nice clean 5-wave structure. Moving over here and looking at this on the weekly, what we can see is that we've actually lost these central CPR lines. Now these are only valid for today, so we will get new ones printed as of tomorrow. But if we do see price push back to the upside, I will be keeping an eye on these levels: 65.72, 67.55, and this 69.43 as potential resistance. A move up towards the higher zone would be the 71.75, which would actually indicate we're potentially looking for that reversal up here. Now, if we are looking at this and we fail to break back above these lines, we could potentially see price look to break down towards this 59.73, this 55.52, and this level is 47.65. So these will be valid for today. They will get new lines printed as of tomorrow. Now, moving on and looking at the monthly CPR, what we can see is we're also currently below these levels. Now, if we look to move back to the upside here, we could potentially find resistance on these again: 65.99, 67.02, and the 68.09. So that would align with the idea of seeing something like a 3-wave move up here and then looking for that continuation to the downside. Now, downside targets for this month, which are still open, would actually be this 45.76, and then we have this lower level here of this 22.57. And then our lowest level that we have here for this month is a 0.123. So this would mean that we'd be potentially looking for a bigger drop here, where we could look for price to come back down into some of these lower levels. Now this R1 would be interesting here towards this 45.60, because it would be bring us back into these lows here. However, if we do start to break down in that bigger way, looking for that continuation to the downside, 22.58 could also be interesting, as it would bring us back into these lows. Now we don't always have to hit these targets, so this is just something worth keeping in mind here, is that if we don't hit these targets, this sometimes happens. So if we do, however, look to reverse back to the upside and we get back above these central CPR lines here, potentially what we could see is price look for that possibility of moving towards 90.42. We have this $1.11 and this $1.35 as possible upside targets here during this month. Okay, so I'm going to leave the video there. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please smash the like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, turn on those bell notifications so you never miss a video, and leave us some feedback down below. Also in the description, you'll find a link to Discord. Come check it out. It's free to join. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.